October 2022. A damp chill enveloped Elk Creek forest, more than 8 miles from the town of Somerset, Kentucky. The light from the land survey team's metal detector cut through the thick fog, reflecting off a shiny silver object buried deep in the red soil. "Control, we need support at the Elk Creek site, and send a field technician," the team leader's voice rang out over the radio, trembling slightly in the cold wind. What began as a routine geological survey had now become something entirely different. Something that would answer the questions haunting Somerset for 18 years. A silver necklace engraved with the initials AM. The exact initials of Ellie Miller, the 18-year-old girl who vanished without a trace in the fall of 2005. In September of that year, Ellie, a freshman at Western Kentucky University, returned home for the weekend and met her ex-boyfriend Stephen Burke at the Mill Street coffee shop. The two left the shop together, and that was the last time anyone saw her alive. The next morning, Ellie's silver Ford Focus was found by Lake Cumberland, doors locked, purse and phone still inside. No signs of a struggle, no blood, no body. Police found no evidence beyond the cold void of disappearance. For nearly 2 months, search teams scoured every inch of the lake, every strip of forest. Sonar, helicopters, search dogs, all returned empty-handed. The case stalled and was classified as missing under unknown circumstances. The Miller family refused to believe she was gone. Every year in September, they lit candles by the window, facing the lake, waiting for a miracle that never came. But what shook Somerset wasn't just Ellie's disappearance, but the last person to see her. Stephen Burke, the ex-boyfriend once seen as the model boy of the town. He claimed they parted amicably, that she left alone. Then he continued living in the community, going to work, attending church, and no one mentioned Ellie Miller's name again. 17 years later, the discovery at Elk Creek changed everything. Touch DNA technology confirmed the biological sample on the necklace matched the DNA of Ellie's mother. A small clue, but strong enough to revive a case buried for nearly 2 decades. When case file 05-0917 was reopened, Detective Emily Carter from the Kentucky State Police Cold Case Unit was assigned to lead the investigation. She didn't know that what was hidden in the Frankfurt archives would unleash a chain of shocking events, exposing secrets the entire town of Somerset had chosen to forget. The Elk Creek discovery wasn't just the end of a missing person case, it was the first domino in a chain exposing what had been hidden for 18 years about love, lies, and crime. Because when authorities finally identified the suspect and made the arrest, it wasn't a stranger. It was someone Somerset knew, trusted, and had seen every day for nearly 2 decades. The Ellie Miller case isn't just a mystery solved, it's proof of a family's persistence that never stopped searching, of investigators who refused to let files gather dust, and of the power of forensic science that gave voice to the forgotten. It's also the story of a divided community. When Ellie vanished, suspicion spread through Somerset like wildfire. Neighbors accused each other. Families stopped talking. The search for Ellie Miller exposed hidden cracks in what seemed like a peaceful town. Those cracks would split wide open when the truth was finally revealed after 18 years. What makes this case especially haunting is that the answer was never far away. The suspect had been questioned in the initial investigation, then overlooked. For nearly 2 decades, he attended Ellie memorials, shook hands with her parents, and lived with an unimaginable secret. Where are you watching from today? Leave your location in the comments below. I always want to know how far these stories reach and how they connect us across distances. Tonight, we'll go back to September 2005, following the 18-year search journey and exploring the forensic breakthrough that closed one of Kentucky's coldest cases. This is a story of loss, persistence, lies, and justice delayed but never denied. Somerset, Kentucky, September 2005. The town sits on the southern edge of the state, where narrow roads connect churches, the post office, and corn farms stretching to the shores of Lake Cumberland. That weekend, The atmosphere was as peaceful as ever. Morning farmers market, pickup trucks parked along Main Street, coffee shops open late for folks after church. Among those returning home for the weekend was 18-year-old Ellie Miller, a freshman at Western Kentucky University. This was her first time back in Somerset since starting college, bringing a few bags and excitement to see her family. Neighbors remembered Ellie as an open, gentle girl who often helped her parents at the small grocery store in town. Saturday evening, Ellie told her mother she was meeting Stephen Burke, her high school ex-boyfriend. They had dated for a few years, broke up before she went to college, but stayed in touch. She wore a red jacket, blue jeans, and drove her silver Ford Focus out of the house in the late afternoon. At Mill Street Cafe, a few regulars said they saw Burke arrive first, sitting at his usual corner table by the window. About 10 minutes later, Ellie walked in, and they talked quietly for nearly an hour. A server remembered the atmosphere between them seemed tense, like a conversation that needed to end, rather than a casual reunion. As the clock neared 6, the two left the cafe together, heading to the back parking lot. A few people saw them standing by Ellie's silver car, seemingly still talking. After that, no one saw her again. Night fell, and the family started realizing something was wrong. Her mother called her cell phone. It rang a few times, then went silent. Her father drove to Main Street, thinking she might be visiting an old friend or shopping. By nearly midnight, with no news, and the phone still off, real fear set in. The whole family split up to search, calling friends, relatives, even going to Burke's house to ask. But no one knew where Ellie was. As the clock passed midnight, they returned home, sitting by the phone, waiting for something they couldn't name. Finally, the father picked up the receiver and called the Somerset police station to report that his daughter, Ellie Miller, was missing. The duty officer logged the call near midnight, the man's voice on the line, calm but tense. After verifying name, age, and address, the officer asked him to stay home, advising the family not to leave in case of a call or new information. That same night, the info was entered into the log. Missing person report, female, 18 years old, college student, left home in the afternoon. No contact. The on-duty officer called local hospitals and ERs to check for unidentified emergency admissions. All came back negative. An internal alert went out to patrol units within town limits, requesting attention to main roads and areas around Lake Cumberland, where young people often gathered. 2 patrol teams conducted preliminary checks around the downtown area and the Miller family's neighborhood, but found no vehicle or unusual signs. Early the next morning, while it was still dark, a team was sent to the Miller home to gather more details. They asked about the time Ellie left, her clothing, personal items, and the car she was driving. Mrs. Linda Miller remembered everything clearly. Red jacket, blue jeans, white sneakers, driving a silver Ford Focus with Pulaski County plates. Police noted it all and entered the data into the state's missing persons alert system. Another officer was assigned to contact anyone who might have seen Ellie that afternoon. The family provided Stephen Burke's name, her ex-boyfriend, who was supposed to meet her at Mill Street Cafe. Police quickly went to the cafe, meeting the owner and 2 servers to verify. They confirmed Ellie was there in the afternoon and sat with Burke for nearly an hour before both left through the back door. No security cameras. The cafe's surveillance system had been broken for months. This initial information was compiled into the case file and sent to the Pulaski County Sheriff's Office. From the statements, the search team initially determined the scan area as the roughly 6-mile stretch between the cafe and the Miller family's neighborhood. That morning, 2 patrol cars were dispatched to scan the entire route, focusing on intersections with lakeside trails and small, low-traffic parking areas. They looked for identifiable physical signs, skid marks, broken glass, dropped items, but results were empty. The first report noted no signs of accident or traffic incident. By late morning, after initial search directions yielded negative results, the sheriff decided to establish an official missing person file, case number 05, initials 0917, and transfer the case to the Kentucky State Police. The the unit with authority to investigate serious missing persons cases in southern Kentucky. The next morning, as patrol units began expanding the search, one of the teams scanning the lakeside road at Lake Cumberland discovered Ellie Miller's silver Ford Focus, parked alone in a clearing near the West Lake parking entrance. The location was about 6 miles from downtown Somerset and outside residential areas, a spot with little nighttime traffic. The team immediately reported to Command Center and requested reinforcements. When other officers arrived, the area was cordoned off with police tape, restricting movement to preserve the scene. It was still early morning fog, ground damp, tires showing shallow skid marks, indicating the car had been parked there at least overnight. No other vehicles around, just a few unclear shoe prints on the sandy soil. The first report described silver Ford Focus, Pulaski County plates, parked about 40 yards from the water's edge, doors closed, no signs of collision. A crime scene technician photographed the full scene, then noted the car's parking direction, matching the route from downtown north along the lake. Officers observing with the naked eye saw no dents or scratches on the body, intact glass, doors not pried. The only notable trace was an even layer of dried dew on the surface, showing the car hadn't moved since last night's rain. They gloved up to try the doors, but the car was locked. Peering through the windows, a small purse on the back seat, a few loose papers, and a cell phone on the dashboard were visible. No signs of struggle or hasty packing. The surrounding search team expanded to a 200-meter radius, sweeping the grassy area and water's edge. One officer noted a light soil slide from the parking spot toward the shore, but the slide was interrupted midway by overnight rain. Along a small trail, they found a few broken sticks and trampled branches, but couldn't yet determine relevance. The scene commander reported the situation to the Pulaski County Sheriff and requested the Kentucky State Police Forensics Unit for support. When the tech team arrived, they photographed the full 360-degree scene, marked GPS coordinates, and car orientation. The initial report stated clearly, vehicle intact, no signs of forced entry. After completing exterior documentation, technicians used specialized gloves to open the doors, avoiding new fingerprints. Doors opened smoothly, locks functioning normally. They noted the cabin smell, just fabric and plastic, no blood, cigarette, or solvent cleaner odor. Driver's seat, passenger seat, and back seats all dry, no struggle signs. On the center console was an old model cell phone, battery dead. On the back seat was a cloth purse containing a wallet, student ID, vehicle registration, and a few local store receipts. The glove box had a small notebook and lipstick, all sealed as evidence. Items were neatly arranged, suggesting the victim may have left the car voluntarily or was forced to leave without taking personal items. After finishing interior checks, the tech team focused on microscopic traces. They used UV light to scan for potential stains on seats and door handles, but found no positive reactions to blood or bodily fluids. Windows and steering wheel were dusted for fingerprints, results showing most matched the owner per driver's license data, plus 2 faint prints not distinctive enough to identify. Technicians separated long hair strands stuck to the gear shift and a few short ones on the passenger seat into separate sealed bags. Under the chassis, they found dried mud mixed with darker gravel than the local parking area soil. Samples were collected for comparison with nearby strata. Outside, the ground showed faint shoe prints by the driver's door, about 27 centimeters long, directed toward the lake. On the other side, only small boot treads, not enough shape to identify. Technicians marked positions, measured distances between prints, noted movement direction, matching the earlier soil slide. One officer noted in the report, no traces indicating vehicle attack or collision. Items neatly placed, consistent with victim leaving under non-emergency conditions. However, the possibility of being forced to leave was not ruled out, due to the isolated area and no witnesses. Checking the exterior body, forensics found a few small scratches on the rear bumper, but measurements confirmed old marks, even dust layer proving not new from the disappearance night. All contact surfaces were dusted for fingerprints, but results limited due to dust and high humidity blurring prints. Inside the trunk, no luggage or notable items beyond a thin folded blanket. Trunk liner, clean, no strange stains. Preliminary results compiled at the scene by late afternoon, no clear crime signs, no violence evidence in the car. Temporary conclusion report, vehicle not subjected to forced impact. Personal items intact, high likelihood victim exited near lake area, voluntarily or upon request to leave. The car was sealed, loaded onto a KSP specialized tow truck for transport to the evidence warehouse in Frankfurt for further analysis. As dusk fell, the cordon remained around the parking area, marking the first scene in Ellie Miller's disappearance. The day's compiled reports sent to state police headquarters showed investigators had moved to verifying the possibility of the victim leaving for undetermined reasons, beginning the official investigation chain. The next morning, after completing the transport of Ellie's car to the storage facility, search teams were redeployed around the Lake Cumberland shoreline. The plan was developed in a brief meeting at the scene, chaired by the Pulaski County Sheriff, with participation from the Water Rescue Team, the State Forensics Unit, and more than 30 local volunteers. The objective was to sweep the entire west shore of the lake where the victim's vehicle was found, while expanding to trails along the water's edge. At 7 in the morning, rescue boats were launched, each equipped with side-scan sonar and underwater cameras. The lake water was calm. Underwater visibility low due to suspended silt after the previous night's rain. Technicians operated the scanning equipment slowly in a grid pattern to identify objects of unusual size at depths from 2 to 10 feet. Scanned data was continuously transmitted to a temporary control station on the shore. On land, police teams coordinated with volunteers divided into 4 small groups, carrying metal detectors and probing rods, scanning along the water's edge and the low forest around the parking area. This area had many old trails connecting to abandoned campsites, dense trees that could easily obscure traces if there was movement at night. By nearly 10 o'clock, a group of volunteers discovered a red object caught on a dry branch a few yards from the water. Upon closer inspection, they recognized it as a torn piece of fabric, apparently washed up on the shore. The item was placed in a sealed bag and handed over to a KSP technician for coordinate recording and scene photography. The fabric piece measured about 30 square centimeters. Synthetic material, dark red. Some personnel noted the color was quite similar to the jacket Ellie wore when leaving home. After being identified as potential evidence, the sample was sent to the State Forensics Lab for fiber examination and trace biological evidence. Search. At the same time, the sonar team on the lake completed the first scan round. Data displayed several weak reflection points, mostly submerged tree stumps or large rocks. No signals matched characteristics of a vehicle or large object. Divers conducted direct checks of 2 suspicious signal areas, but results were negative. Throughout the afternoon, shore teams continued expanding the search 2 more miles south, where the terrain was gently sloping and rarely visited. They checked every dirt road segment into the forest, soft soil areas, trampled bushes, but yielded no new discoveries. Each position was marked on the topographic map with small flag stakes for future reference. At the end of the day, commanders held a brief meeting to compile the situation. The report stated that nearly 80% of the West Lake shore had been scanned, with no notable objects found besides the red fabric piece. Sonar data was backed up and sent to the Kentucky State Police Analysis Department in Frankfurt for more detailed image processing. Volunteer teams were thanked and temporarily dismissed, retaining only regular forces for nighttime patrols. The initial summary stated clearly, no body, no vehicle or large object discovered in the search area. No collision signs, no clear evidence of incident on the water. The red fabric piece is the only evidence recorded in the area. The sheriff signed the report confirmation and directed maintaining the parking area cordon where the vehicle was found for an additional 24 hours to ensure no traces were missed. As the sun set, Lake Cumberland returned to its usual tranquility, only the yellow markers and cordon tape reflecting faint light. The first day's search concluded with a temporary conclusion that the victim may have left this area, but how and under what circumstances remained unanswered. After 2 days of fruitless searching, the investigation's focus shifted to individuals with direct connections to the victim, especially Stephen Burke, the last person seen with Ellie at Mill Street Cafe. On the morning of September 20, 2005, Kentucky State Police investigators arrived at Burke's home on the eastern edge of Somerset. The 2-story house was clean, the front yard still showing wet patches, a faint car wash soap smell lingering. Burke appeared cooperative, agreeing to an on-site interview. In the first statement transcript, he said he and Ellie had dated since high school, broke up when she went to college, but remained friends. He insisted the meeting that day was to talk things out clearly, with no argument. According to Burke, around 6:15 in the evening, Ellie left the cafe first, saying she needed to drive to the lake to clear her head while he went home right after. He claimed to be home with his mother from 7 o'clock, eating dinner and watching sports on TV. When asked if he knew where she went after leaving the cafe, Burke replied, "Not sure," suggesting she might want to drive around the lake like before. The investigator recorded the full statement, noting the detail of mentioning the lake, matching the victim's car discovery location. After leaving the house, the investigation team verified Burke's stated timeline. They interviewed his mother, who confirmed her son came home around 7, maybe a bit earlier, and stayed in all evening. However, she couldn't recall the exact time he entered because she was on the phone with a relative in Louisville then. Police noted this statement was not solid enough for a clear timeline. Next, they checked Burke's activities on the disappearance day. According to data from the electronics store where he worked part-time, Burke clocked out at 5:30, matching the time to meet Ellie at the cafe. When asked about washing the car, he admitted doing so the next morning due to muddy rain. However, a gas station employee about a mile from Burke's home gave a different statement. In his account, he said he saw Burke come to buy wipes and a cleaning solution bottle around 9 o'clock on the evening of September 17th, the night Ellie vanished. The employee described him wearing dark clothing, alone, washing the car in the self-service bay for about 10 minutes before leaving. Police noted this detail and requested checking the gas station's cameras, but the surveillance system had been non-operational for months, with no stored footage. The investigation team conducted a visual inspection of Burke's pickup truck. The body was shiny clean, interior dry, no mud or sand traces. Forensics technicians swabbed seats and floor, collecting a few small red fabric fibers stuck in the rear trunk, sealed in bags for the lab. When asked about these fibers, Burke said they might be from hauling old items to a storage near the lake earlier, brushing it off, probably from the cargo tarp. Throughout the interview, he remained calm, showing no reaction when informed about finding Ellie's car. Burke's composed demeanor led investigators to note it as unusual for someone whose acquaintance is missing, but not enough for detention. At the end of the statement, he signed the transcript, refusing to provide a DNA sample, citing no official request yet. In the compiled report sent to headquarters, the investigation team stated clearly, "The last person seen with the victim has been interviewed." Statement has minor inconsistencies regarding time and evening activities. Gas station witness provides valuable information needing further verification. That same day, the Pulaski County Sheriff signed a decision placing Stephen Burke on active watch list, requiring updates on all his movements and activities. Meanwhile, investigators continued scanning areas around his home and his usual work route, noting some points for additional checks. No asset disposal or leaving the area. By day's end, officers concluded in the report, insufficient legal basis for criminal charges, but subject has final contact with missing person. Recommend maintaining surveillance and gathering more information. The interrogation of Stephen Burke concluded without specific evidence, but his name remained boldly marked in File 05-NE0917 as the first central figure in the investigation. Immediately after completing initial interviews, all evidence collected from the lakeside area and inside Ellie Miller's car was transferred to the Kentucky State Forensics Lab in Frankfort for analysis. On September 22, 2005, the criminalistics technician team officially opened the examination file with 3 objectives. Determine the origin of the red fabric piece found near the lakeshore, compare hair samples collected in the victim's car, and verify if tire tracks at the scene match Stephen Burke's vehicle. The process followed standard lab protocol: imaging, sample classification, and backup storage for independent verification. In 2005, the state's DNA analysis system was equipped only with basic STR technology, low sensitivity. Hair samples were separated for root extraction, but most strands collected in Ellie's car were broken, lacking sufficient genetic material. The technical report stated, unable to determine nuclear DNA sequence due to degraded hair structure. Technicians applied microscopic comparison, matching shape and pigment, results showing male hair, dark brown, about 3 centimeters long. This conclusion was reference only, insufficient for individual identification. Concurrently, the red fabric piece from near the water was examined under spectroscopic microscope. Fiber composition was polyester nylon blend, synthetic material common for outer jackets. Chemical testing detected silver automotive paint traces on the surface, spectral match to Ford Focus paint samples. However, this paint was common on many vehicle models, so results were correlative only, not direct proof. The forensics lab added, no human DNA detected on fabric sample due to water exposure and environmental time. Lack of biological traces made comparison with the victim's DNA profile nearly impossible. The only suggestive result was fibers found in Burke's truck trunk, similar in color to the lakeside fabric piece. Both samples underwent the same spectroscopic process, showing near-identical absorption indices, but a 3% deviation prevented the technical report from confirming common origin. The final trace analyzed was the parking area tire marks. Under specialized lighting, technicians measured tread pattern, depth, and groove spacing. Comparison samples from Stephen Burke's pickup showed the same Bridgestone all-terrain TA, 16-inch size. This tire type was common on many Kentucky pickups, so the match was not decisive. The report stated clearly, insufficient geometric characteristics for individual match confirmation. High probability samples are same tire type, but not confirmed same vehicle. To bolster the process, technicians analyzed dried mud from under the victim's car and soil from the scene. Results showed similar mineral composition, but uniform lakeside geology provided no differentiation value. Mud samples from Burke's undercarriage were insufficient for comparison, as the vehicle had been washed multiple times. Throughout the nearly 2-week examination, no results created a significant breakthrough. The compiled report sent to the Pulaski County Sheriff's Office on October 5, 2005, stated clearly, samples analyzed per current standards. No DNA match to victim, no new biological evidence. Tire tracks and fabric materials show similarity but insufficient for confirmation. Additional evidence or witnesses needed to prove criminal act. Based on these results, the Somerset investigation team re-scanned the entire data chain. Officers noted no violence factors in the car, intact personal items, no coercion signs. Thus, the investigation report concluded, insufficient basis to determine crime at scene time. Reasonable hypothesis is victim left vehicle voluntarily or was forced to exit at lake area, but no direct proof. The case file remained open, but temporarily without criminal charges. In a mid-October internal meeting, the sheriff agreed to shift focus to monitoring primary subject Stephen Burke. A detective team tracked his routine and movements in following weeks, noting no leaving the area or asset disposal. The investigation unit noted the subject maintained normal work, unchanged lifestyle. Daily surveillance reports sent to command center all stated no unusual developments. The case thus remained in passive monitoring, reactivating only with new information or evidence. By the end of 2005, All investigation files and forensics results were archived in the Kentucky State Police Case Management System under identifier 050917. The final summary transcript in this phase recorded, evidence analyses insufficient to prove criminal act. Continue monitoring related subject and maintain open file. This was the first official forensics conclusion of the disappearance, confirming that up to that point, no evidence identified Ellie Miller as a victim of a specific crime, and the investigation would temporarily shift to long-term monitoring. After the forensics examination results were returned without specific evidence, the investigation focus completely shifted to monitoring Stephen Burke. The Pulaski County Sheriff approved a 3-month surveillance plan, assigning 2 Kentucky State Police detectives to collect information on the subject's movements, communications, and finances. The goal was to detect any unusual signs suggesting concealment or preparation to leave the area. Throughout the monitoring period, Burke maintained a regular lifestyle. He went to work daily at the electronics store in downtown Somerset, clocking out around 5:30, returning home for dinner with his mother. Weekend evenings, he played ball at the church or ate out with a fixed group of friends. Detectives recorded this schedule in weekly reports, detecting no sudden changes. Burke's phone was placed under passive monitoring via call records and location data. Analysis results showed in the week of the disappearance, he contacted only 7 numbers, mostly coworkers or local acquaintances. No calls to or from after 9 o'clock on the evening of September 17th, the time the gas station witness said he saw him washing the car. Technical room cross-reference carrier data, confirming Burke's phone connected to cell towers all within town limits. No long-distance movement signs. His personal bank account was checked via district prosecutor authorization. Financial reports showed normal expenses, rent, utilities, groceries, and a small payment at an auto parts store, matching routine maintenance. No out-of-state transfers or unusual cash withdrawals. Burke's pickup was periodically inspected. The in-vehicle GPS did not store old roads, but the odometer showed no tampering signs. When the investigation team gathered information from neighbors, most said Burke behaved normally, showing no worry or avoidance. One nearby resident said he often washed his car early on weekends, but that was a pre-existing habit, not new. A few close friends interviewed said after Ellie's disappearance, he mentioned her less, only briefly saying hope she's okay. Burke's calm demeanor made it hard for police to gauge true reactions, as there were no clear signs of concealment or fear. Meanwhile, efforts to find new witnesses yielded no results. Police posted notices in neighborhoods around the lake, distributed flyers to stores, gas stations, and areas near Mill Street Cafe, calling for information from anyone who saw the silver Ford Focus on the disappearance evening. Over 40 calls were recorded, but most were duplicate or unverified information. One person reported seeing a similar car at a park entrance, but couldn't confirm exact time. All were added to the case appendix, but lacked proof value. The detective team continued monitoring Burke until the end of December 2005. He did not leave Somerset, had no suspicious phone or mail contacts, no large financial transactions. The final surveillance report stated clearly. Subject maintained stable routine, no signs of flight preparation or evidence destruction, no illegal behavior during monitoring period. Internally, investigators began acknowledging the case had no new direction. Lack of witnesses, no physical evidence, and inconclusive forensics results stalled the investigation. Some officers suggested pausing surveillance to focus on other leads, but all options circled back to the start. By early 2006, when periodic reports were submitted to Kentucky State Police, Ellie Miller's disappearance was assessed as no significant progress. Surveillance of subject Stephen Burke ended without new data. In the 3-month summary transcript, the Pulaski County Sheriff wrote a short line: "No criminal behavior detected, victim not found. Continue maintaining open file." From that point, the investigation began to slow. Search teams halted regular operations, and the disappearance gradually became a hanging file among hundreds of unsolved cases in the Kentucky State Police system. When the surveillance period for Stephen Burke ended without yielding additional data, the investigation officially entered a phase of full case file reevaluation. In March 2006, the Pulaski County Sheriff's Office, along with Kentucky State Police representatives, held an internal meeting to determine the next course of action. 6 months had passed since Ellie Miller was reported missing, and all search efforts had produced no clear results. A compiled report over 200 pages thick was presented to the command, more than 30 witnesses interviewed, 12 search areas scanned with sonar, dozens of samples sent for examination, but no evidence sufficient to conclude a crime. Patrol teams had rescanned the entire area around Lake Cumberland, twice more in January and February 2006. Low winter water levels exposed many objects, but all were household trash or driftwood. An old jacket found on the South Shore initially raised hopes among locals, but after examination, the fabric and size did not match Ellie's jacket. Ground searches were also scaled back due to bad weather and complex terrain. The rescue unit's report confirmed no areas within a 5-mile radius of the parking site remained unchecked. Given the situation, the Pulaski District Attorney sent a memo stating no basis for criminal charges due to no body, no witnesses proving criminal acts, and no physical evidence strong enough for conviction. Per state regulations, the case was reclassified from potential crime investigation to missing under undetermined circumstances. In the concluding meeting on March 15, the sheriff announced suspension of active investigation, transferring the file to open storage mode, reactivating only with new evidence or additional statements. All investigators involved agreed the chance of finding the victim after 6 months was nearly zero, unless a new factor emerged. The administrative transcript prepared by the Kentucky State Police Office stated clearly, case status unresolved. No body, no direct evidence. Current assessment, missing under undetermined circumstances. File archived at State Center, open file section. All evidence was resealed, including the red fabric piece, hair samples, soil samples, tire impressions, and scene transcripts. Everything was transferred to storage in Frankfort per standard protocol for long-term preservation. Each evidence bag was labeled with an identifier and signed by the responsible person in case re-examination was needed in the future. Ellie's Ford Focus, after completing examination, was returned to the family upon request. They kept the car in its original condition without repairs or sale. The Miller family met police one last time to inquire about continuing the search, but were informed that state forces and resources were allocated to cases with clearer legal basis. The final internal report in this phase had only 3 summary lines. No new evidence discovered, no additional witnesses, no prosecution basis. The bold line at the end of the report, case temporarily suspended, marked the moment Ellie Miller's disappearance was officially paused. In the following weeks, File 05-0-917 was entered into Kentucky's open case catalog, alongside hundreds of other unsolved disappearances. Annual periodic reports would still check file status, but without new data, the case would remain undetermined circumstances. For investigating agencies, this was familiar administrative procedure, but for those who worked the case, it felt like closing a door with many questions still inside. By the end of 2006, no meetings mentioned Ellie Miller's name in Kentucky State Police annual transcripts. The disappearance was placed in the no crime indicators, awaiting new data list, marking the end of the initial investigation phase. From then on, the file lay dormant in the storage system, awaiting evidence strong enough to reopen it. After the case was paused in early 2006, the entire Ellie Miller disappearance file was transferred to the Kentucky State Police Evidence Storage Center in Frankfort. There, documents, transcripts, scene photos, and physical evidence were packaged, sealed, and labeled per unresolved case preservation protocol. Each evidence bag was tagged with identifier 050917 Pulaski, along with signatures from the lead investigator and storage department head. The main file box contained over 300 pages of documents, including investigation reports, examination transcripts, witness statements, search maps, and internal notes. A final handover transcript between the Pulaski County Sheriff's Office and the State Storage Center ended the active investigation phase. From then on, the Ellie Miller case officially entered open file status, maintained in periodic monitoring lists, but without a dedicated investigation team. Per Kentucky state regulations, unresolved disappearance files are reviewed every 3 years, mainly to ensure evidence preservation conditions and update DNA data in the National CODIS database. In 2008, the first check was conducted. Technicians inspected evidence condition, evaluating storage red fabric, hair, soil, and tire impressions, all intact. The evaluation report concluded, no material degradation, still suitable for re-examination if needed. At the same time, the state forensics lab updated Ellie's mother's DNA sample, collected in 2005, into the national database system. However, no matches were recorded across the entire U.S. CODIS system. In 2011, the second periodic check involved the Kentucky State Police Cold Case Investigation Unit. The purpose was to scan long-term disappearances for potential new DNA technology application. The summary report noted the Ellie Miller case might qualify for future reanalysis, but at that time, facilities and funding did not allow widespread implementation. Evidence was resealed, stored in a separate temperature-controlled cabinet. Throughout 2006-2015, the Miller family sent letters yearly to state police, inquiring about file status. Each time they received a brief response, no new data recorded. File remains open. Though no active investigation, local units were obligated to update if remains or matching evidence were found. In 2012, a skeleton discovered in northern Pulaski Forest temporarily prompted case review, but DNA examination showed no match. This report was added to the file appendix, noted, unrelated to Miller disappearance. Meanwhile, forensic technology in Kentucky gradually advanced, but resources for reanalyzing old cases remained limited. In 2014, a statewide audit reorganized evidence storage per new standards. Over 1,500 unresolved cases were reclassified, including File 050917. The scan results showed the Ellie Miller disappearance met criteria for transfer to cold case category. Cases over 10 years without progress. 1 year later, in July 2015, the Kentucky State Forensic Review Board signed the official reclassification, Case 050917. Cold case, missing person presumed dead. The accompanying memo stated clearly, no new evidence, no new witnesses. Legal status, victim presumed deceased due to prolonged disappearance. This decision did not mean case deletion, but transfer to cold case unit management, responsible for preservation, digitization, and periodic review of unresolved files. Physical evidence was placed in Cabinet 14, Row B, Frankfurt Central Storage. Victim and family DNA samples were entered into the national system, awaiting automatic matching with any future added data. In the 2015 year-end transcript, the storage officer noted briefly, Ellie Miller case maintains cold case status, no new data. File complete, evidence intact, ready for re-examination upon request. After nearly 10 years since the disappearance, the case now existed only as a file code in Kentucky State Police Technical Catalog, updated with administrative notes. The yellowing document pages lay quietly in the metal file box, awaiting a new chance to be opened. Fall 2022, nearly 17 years after the Ellie Miller disappearance file was archived, a chance discovery changed that long silence. In a geological survey project by the University of Kentucky, in collaboration with local authorities at Elk Creek, about 8 miles northeast of Somerset, the student and faculty team, measuring strata, detected a small metal object using a magnetometer. The area was gently sloping hills interspersed with pine forest and clearings, once used for clay mining in the late 1990s, now abandoned. As the survey team cleared thin topsoil, they noticed the object reflecting silver light in the sun. It was a thin necklace with the pendant engraved with faded initials, EM. Initially, they thought it was someone's lost personal item, but per project protocol, all material value finds had to be reported to local authorities. The necklace sample was transferred to the Pulaski County Sheriff's Office with GPS coordinate transcript of the discovery location. An officer at the office reviewing the report immediately associated it with Ellie Miller's disappearance due to matching initials and Elk Creek mentioned in a 2005 search report. He contacted the Kentucky State Police Cold Case Unit in Frankfort, requesting examination consideration. On October 18, 2022, the evidence was officially transferred to the State Forensics Lab. Though the chain was lightly oxidized and covered in fine soil, the structure remained intact. Per the new protocol applied since 2020, small metal objects capable of retaining DNA were processed using touch DNA technique, a method extracting trace epithelial cells from surface contact. The forensic technician used a special solution to swab the entire pendant face and clasp, then sent samples to the DNA analysis department. Initial results drew specialist attention: a weak genetic sample, but readable mitochondrial chromosome nucleotide sequence, indicating female gender and genetic traits, similar to the 2005 CODIS stored sample. Detailed comparison confirmed a match with Linda Miller's DNA profile, Ellie's mother, entered during the initial investigation. Similarity level reached 99.98%, meeting standards to affirm direct blood relation to the evidence. The technical report was sent to the Cold Case Division commander on October 26, noting, "New evidence has DNA matching first-degree relative of missing person case 05, new as 0917. Recommend reopening investigation file." Within 2 weeks, an emergency meeting was held at Kentucky State Police Headquarters in Frankfort, including Cold Case Division representatives, State Forensics Lab, and Pulaski District Attorney's Office. The goal was to evaluate the new discovery's legal and scientific value. The meeting agreed the evidence had high authenticity, located within a 10-mile radius of the 2005 vehicle discovery site, sufficient to officially restart investigation. The administrative decision was signed November 7, 2022, stating clearly, "Reopen file 05 new as 0917, assign cold case investigation team to re-examine evidence and scan related scenes." Notification was sent to the Pulaski County Sheriff's Office, requesting cooperation in providing original documents and reports related to Elk Creek. In Frankfort storage, the metal file box was retrieved after 17 years sealed. Storage staff checked each evidence bag, cross-referencing seal numbers and preservation condition. All remained intact. The unsealing transcript recorded time and witnesses, beginning the re-investigation phase. The silver necklace engraved EM became the first newly recorded evidence since 2005 and the first clue capable of re-establishing a link between the victim and the discovery area. In the startup report, the Cold Case Division commander concluded, "With current DNA technology, evidence retrieval and comparison capabilities are many times higher than initial investigation. Need to form a dedicated team to fully scan the file and determine new search directions around Elk Creek." By the end of 2022, the Ellie Miller case was officially reactivated, carrying a small but weighty piece of evidence enough to set the entire Kentucky state investigation system in motion again after nearly 2 decades. Early January 2023, after the Ellie Miller disappearance file was officially reactivated, Kentucky State Police appointed Inspector Emily Carter, a cold case unit investigator, as lead. Carter, then 39, was a forensic investigation specialist who had participated in many DNA re-examination cases in central Kentucky. Her task was to scan all 2005 original documents, re-evaluate preserved evidence value, and determine feasible investigation directions based on available technology. On January 9, Carter arrived at Frankfort Storage, where the metal file box coded 050917 Pulaski was retrieved from Cabinet Row B, Slot 14. Storage staff unsealed under her witness, recording evidence condition 6 intact evidence bags, including red fabric piece, hair samples, soil samples, tire impression copies, scene transcripts, and original photos. Carter requested full electronic and paper document copying to begin cross-referencing. In the first week, she spent most time reading every file page, noting inconsistencies or unclear points from the initial investigation phase. The 2005 compiled report showed most samples were limited by then analysis technology, especially broken hair and fabric without usable DNA. Carter assessed that advancements in YS-TIRA, MVAC, and modern spectroscopy allowed genetic cell extraction at trace levels impossible nearly 2 decades earlier. In her memo to the Cold Case Division commander, she wrote, "Current technology can exploit DNA from samples thought valueless. Need re-examination of all hair, fabric, and soil samples, plus tire impression comparison with new digital databases." This proposal was approved in January. The State Forensics Lab received the task to re-accept evidence and conduct new analysis protocols. Simultaneously, Carter worked with the mapping department to reconstruct the 2005 scene. Old maps were high-resolution scanned, then overlaid on current satellite images of Lake Cumberland and Elk Creek areas. The purpose was to precisely locate the parking site where the victim's car was found, as well as the 2022 necklace discovery area. Through comparison, Carter found the straight-line distance between sites just over 7 miles, within the same gentle terrain strip toward the lake. This discovery led her to hypothesize Elk Creek might have been the victim's movement route or an intermediate point after leaving the car. She proposed full field survey of the forest and old creek bed around Elk Creek, where the geological survey team worked. The search project was detailed in a 3-phase plan: terrain survey by drone, ground-penetrating radar scanning, and manual checks of suspected soil disturbance areas. The proposal report also requested coordination with the Pulaski County Sheriff's Office to ensure access to private lands. On January 23, in a Frankfurt meeting, Carter presented the full plan to command. She spoke calmly, clearly listing evidence for re-examination, survey scope, projected timeline, and support manpower. The report was evaluated as realistic, systematic, and suitable for current technical capabilities. The plan was approved the same day. Regarding old files, Carter paid special attention to the gas station witness statement, claiming to see Stephen Burke washing his car on the disappearance night. She marked this detail for re-verification, as in 2005, there was no image evidence due to broken cameras. She contacted the former gas station owner, now retired, to ask about possible retained sales receipt copies. He confirmed original ledger data was destroyed, but Carter requested checking district tax storage for potential automated sales logs from that year. This was seen as a small but potentially helpful timeline verification for Burke on the disappearance night. Parallel to document scanning, Carter requested KSP Digital Department create 3D models from original scene photos. Scene reconstruction technology helped compare car position, tire marks, and recorded footprints. Through this process, she discovered a previously overlooked detail: the angle discrepancy of 30 degrees between the lake-directed footprint and tire skid mark, suggesting possible 2-person movement at the scene rather than one. She noted this in her investigation notebook, marked red. By late January, the preliminary progress report to Cold Case Division leadership stated all evidence had been transported to forensics, original files fully digitized, and Elk Creek survey plan ready for spring implementation. The report concluded, scanning reveals many data points re-exploitable via technological advances. Immediate goals are evidence reanalysis and linking 2005 car discovery site to Elk Creek area. At that point, the Ellie Miller case, silent for nearly 2 decades, officially entered a new phase under Inspector Emily Carter's direction, tasked with finding the answer previous investigation generations could not complete. February 2023. Immediately after the scanning plan was approved, the Kentucky State Forensics Lab began re-examining all original evidence from File 050917. The process was divided into three main analysis groups: biological samples, material samples, and geological samples. All were conducted using modern techniques unavailable during the 2005 investigation. The first task was reprocessing the hair samples collected from the victim's vehicle. In the old file, technicians had concluded the samples lacked sufficient nuclear DNA for analysis, but now YS-TAR technology, sequencing DNA on the Y chromosome, allowed reading male-specific genetic markers even from broken or severely degraded samples. The forensic technician carefully removed each hair strand preserved in sealed glass tubes, placing them in a specialized extraction chamber. After 3 days of processing, they obtained initial results: a complete YS-TAR sequence at 16 loci. This data was compared to the Kentucky Criminal DNA Database and yielded a perfect match with Stephen Burke's DNA profile, stored in the system since 2003 following an administrative violation. The official report stated clearly, hair sample from victim's vehicle has YS-TAR characteristics 100% matching Stephen Burke's DNA profile. Random match probability less than 1/10 million. This discovery was the first biological evidence directly linking the suspect to the scene in nearly 2 decades. Simultaneously, the material analysis group unsealed the bag containing the red fabric piece found near Lake Cumberland shore. The sample was cleaned with preservation solution to remove impurities, then a small section was cut for infrared spectroscopy. Results showed a metallic acrylic silver paint layer on the surface, matching the silver frost metallic code used for 2003-2005 Ford Focus models, the same as Ellie's car. Under electron microscopy, the team detected additional white cotton fiber traces adhered to the fabric edge, suggesting friction with seat or carpet material. The report concluded, physical and chemical composition of paint matches victim's vehicle sample. Fabric highly likely had direct contact with the vehicle shortly before or after it stopped operating. The fabric sample was preserved for potential further examination. Soil analysis was conducted in parallel. 2 soil samples, one from under the victim's car, one from the 2005 lakeside parking area, were compared to the Elk Creek strata where the silver necklace was found. Using atomic emission spectroscopy, experts determined all 3 samples had similar mineral structures, high montmorillonite clay ratio, trace calcium levels, and natural silica signatures characteristic of ancient lake alluvial formations. Geologists concluded the samples originated from the same continuous strata band extending from West Lake Cumberland to Elk Creek Valley. In the compiled report, the lead engineer wrote, "Mineral source match probability exceeds 98%. Soil samples have continuous geographic relation, indicating initial scene and Elk Creek area are within the same geological region." This reinforced Inspector Carter's assessment that the vehicle discovery site and necklace location could be directly linked. Beyond the 3 main examination groups, Carter requested rechecking the 2005 tire impressions using 3D scanning technology. Original photos were digitized, detailed geometry reconstructed, and compared to current tire databases. Recognition software identified the pattern-matching Bridgestone Dueler AT 16-inch, the standard tire for the pickup model Burke used at the time. Computer analysis showed 92% similarity in groove structure and wear, far above individual identification thresholds. Though not absolute proof, this result added another solid link in the chain connecting the suspect to the victim's vehicle discovery area. When all individual reports were submitted in March, Carter compiled them into a nearly 60-page comprehensive evaluation. She reorganized everything in logical sequence from biological to material, then geological and mechanical samples. Each section was illustrated with images and statistical data. In the conclusion, she stated clearly, "Available evidence forms a complete linkage chain between suspect Stephen Burke, victim's vehicle, and initial scene area. Hair sample confirms suspect presence in vehicle. Fabric sample proves contact with vehicle body. Soil sample reinforces geographic link between vehicle discovery site and Elk Creek area. Synthesis of 3 data groups creates a consistent physical evidence system." The report was sent to the Cold Case Division commander, with a recommendation to expand field investigation. Simultaneously, the hair examination results were forwarded to the Pulaski District Attorney's Office for legal value assessment. A closed meeting was held shortly after to evaluate the findings' credibility. Independent experts from the University of Louisville and Tennessee State Forensics Lab were invited to reappraise the analysis process. Their conclusions aligned with the examination team. No technical errors, results met evidence standards. This was the first time in 18 years the Ellie Miller case had scientific evidence strong enough to fully restructure the investigation hypothesis. Upon receiving the report, Carter marked 3 lines in blue pen at the end. 1. Suspect DNA present in victim's vehicle. 2. Fabric matches vehicle paint. 3. Soil matches Elk Creek minerals. Below, she added a short file note. 18 years ago, these samples were nearly meaningless. Today, they are the key. With the new data set, the Kentucky Cold Case Investigation Team had a foundation to establish evidence suspect scene connections, opening the first opportunity since 2005 to understand what happened to Ellie Miller on the night she vanished. April 2023, immediately after evidence examination results confirmed the geological link between the vehicle discovery area and Elk Creek region, Inspector Emily Carter presented a supplemental field survey plan. The deployment's objective was to determine if Elk Creek showed signs of burial or suspicious soil disturbance related to Ellie Miller's disappearance. Based on topographic map data and mineral reports, Carter delineated a 1-mile radius around the 2022 Silver Necklace discovery coordinates. This area lay deep in low-dense forest, intersected by a dry creek bed once part of an ancient lake. The survey team included KSP GPR specialists and 2 University of Kentucky geologists. On April 11th, the team set up ground-penetrating radar equipment in the central Elk Creek Valley. Low-frequency signal transmitters were pulled along parallel lines 3 meters apart to scan strata to nearly 3 meters deep. After 3 hours, the device screen displayed an anomalous response sequence. Soil at about 1.2 meters depth had non-uniform structure, lower compaction density than surroundings, clear rectangular block outline. The lead engineer noted, GPR signal suggests artificially disturbed soil area. Cover, layer structure unnatural. Likely a burial pit. Carter ordered expanding the scan 10 meters around the spot for confirmation. Similar results appeared on 2 sides, reinforcing mechanical strata intervention. Evidence. After consulting scene forensics, the team decided on controlled excavation. The area was cordoned with police tape, coordinate mapped, divided into small grids for precise depth and layer order recording. On April 12th, digging began under supervision by forensic staff, criminal police, and scene specialists. At about 1 meter depth, a technician's shovel hit something hard. Clearing fine soil, they revealed a small white rounded bone, highly likely a human hand bone. Activity was immediately paused for initial discovery documentation. The excavation area was carefully expanded 1/2 meter in all directions. In the same soil layer, the team continued finding multiple other bone fragments, small and fractured, mostly well preserved due to moist clay environment maintaining shape. An old rusted metal clasp was discovered near wrist bones, round hook type, possibly a necklace clasp. Clearing the next soil layer, technicians found a small round metal object near rib bones, initially identified as a .38 caliber lead bullet. All discoveries were photographed, coordinate marked, and sealed on site. In the same layer, the team recovered a dark red fabric scrap, small size, draped across the rib area. After preliminary observation, Carter noted the color similar to the 2005 lakeside fabric sample. The evidence was placed in sterile plastic bags, sequentially numbered for later examination. By late afternoon, most of the excavation reached nearly 1.5 meters deep, revealing a clear old burial pit shape, about 1.8 x 0.8 meters. Bottom lined with clay and gravel. Bones were carefully collected, excavation sequence recorded, then transferred to labeled specialized containers, human remains, pending identification. The temporary scene report stated, GPR survey and excavation confirm artificial burial pit existence. Pit contains human bones, fabric scrap, bullet, and jewelry clasp-shaped metal object. The next day, all evidence was transported to the Kentucky State Forensics Lab in Frankfort, via specialized vehicle, escorted and triple-sealed per security protocol. The same day, Elk Creek area was cordoned for an additional 72 hours to ensure no evidence was missed. The technical team continued expanded scanning of 2 adjacent areas, but found no further suspicious points. The final excavation transcript exceeded 25 pages, with photos, cross-section diagrams, and GPR data. In the assessment section, the scene engineer noted, soil disturbance signs fully match intentional burial pit characteristics, formation time estimated over 10 years. Pit evidence includes human bones, bullet, and textile material, likely related to file 05 NINID 0917. The Elk Creek excavation, conducted in silence and discipline, delivered the first major breakthrough in determining a suspicious location related to Ellie Miller's disappearance. After nearly 18 years, what remained in the earth began revealing new data, opening possibilities to reconstruct what once happened in that creekside forest. The evidence recovered from the Elk Creek excavation was transferred to the Kentucky State Forensics Lab the next day to begin in-depth examination. The lab identified 3 main categories: DNA analysis from human bones, metal bullet examination, and auxiliary evidence assessment, including fabric scrap and metal clasp. The entire process was conducted under strict controlled conditions, supervised by Cold Case Division and Pulaski District Attorney representatives. The biological forensics team started with bone samples. From over 30 bone fragments collected at the scene, technicians selected femur and tibia sections for DNA extraction due to their dense structure and low decomposition. After nearly a week of chemical processing, results yielded sufficient DNA for complete sequencing. Data was entered into CODIS and compared to Linda Miller's DNA sample, the victim's mother, stored since 2005. On April 20, 2023, the results report was signed and confirmed. Mitochondrial and nuclear DNA from bone samples match first-degree relative comparison sample of Linda Miller. Random match probability less than 1/100th million. This conclusion affirmed the Elk Creek skeleton was the remains of Ellie Miller, missing since 2005. After 18 years, the victim's identity was finally confirmed by undeniable scientific evidence. At the same time, the ballistics forensics team began examining the metal bullet from the burial pit. It was a copper-jacketed lead .38 caliber bullet, slightly deformed tail, retaining barrel rifling marks. Preliminary analysis identified it as ammunition for Colt .38 special revolvers, common in the 1980s, 1990s. Investigators cross-referenced old files and found a notable detail in a Somerset police report from August 2005. Ellie's father, Robert Miller, reported a missing Colt .38 from the family garage, suspected stolen. The incident was recorded, but not deeply investigated due to no clear suspect. When recontacted, he confirmed the missing gun was never found and the serial number remained on file. Based on this data, the ballistics lab requested comparison of the Elk Creek bullet with the lost weapon information. Though the gun was not in police possession, experts could compare bullet rifling characteristics to the National Ballistics Database for compatible weapon groups. Results showed 6-groove right-hand twist, 1/16-inch pitch, fully matching Colt .38 special technical specs from the production period. In the report, the specialist stated clearly, high probability the bullet was fired from a weapon of the same type and mechanical configuration as the Colt .38 special reported missing in 2005. No deformation signs from long-range firing. The discovery of a .38 bullet at the remains burial site with other evidence, plus the missing gun information, created a direct link between the victim and criminal act. Skull bone analysis showed a clean round hole at the back of the head, diameter matching the found bullet. Microscopic analysis confirmed radiating fracture patterns consistent with close-range firing mechanism, shot from behind and slightly angled right. The temporary forensic pathology report concluded, cause of death brain trauma from penetrating bullet. Traces indicate victim in standing or seated position, shot from behind. Examiners affirmed no self-inflicted injury signs, firing direction and wound angle only matched intentional attack. During auxiliary evidence checks, the red fabric scrap from the burial pit was compared to the 2005 examined sample. Spectroscopic results confirmed identical fiber composition and dye, dark red polyester nylon blend. Thus, the Elk Creek fabric was remnants of the same material type found near the victim's vehicle, reinforcing the hypothesis of direct scene linkage. Additionally, the small metal clasp recovered at the scene was cleaned and magnified photographed. After comparison with 2022 silver EM necklace images, specialists confirmed it was the broken necklace clasp, the final piece exactly matching the remaining chain. This match once again proved Elk Creek as the victim's location at the time leading to death. On April 28, 2023, a meeting was held at Kentucky State Police Headquarters in Frankfort with Inspector Emily Carter, forensics lab representatives, and Pulaski District Attorney to announce preliminary examination results. The 40-page report, signed by 3 independent experts, concluded human remains found at Elk Creek are Ellie Miller's. Victim died from .38 handgun bullet. Bullet matches type of family victim's 2005 missing Colt .38 special. Strata structure indicates intentional post-death burial. Crime indicators, murder and body concealment. The scene transcript was added to file 05-0917 with new status, homicide confirmed, evidence recovered. This was the first time since the case began that Kentucky State Police could officially determine Ellie Miller was deceased, no longer an undetermined missing person case. Along with that, the bullet's existence and the 2005 missing gun opened a new investigation direction, raising questions about who could access the weapon at the time. In the compiled conclusion, sent to command, Carter wrote briefly, cause of death firearm, subsequent act, intentional body concealment, nature, murder crime. With the newly confirmed evidence, the Ellie Miller case officially shifted from missing person file to full criminal investigation, and once again, all eyes in the Kentucky State Investigation Agency turned to the name Stephen Burke, the last person seen with her on that fall afternoon in 2005. Early May 2023, immediately after examination results confirmed the victim's identity and preliminary cause of death, Inspector Emily Carter began preparing legal documents to request an arrest warrant for Stephen Burke. She spent nearly a week compiling all physical evidence and expert reports into a document titled Probable Cause Report, Case 05-0917. The over 80-page document detailed the chain of facts established during the reinvestigation, Burke's DNA-bearing hair in the victim's vehicle, matching geological results between the vehicle discovery site and Elk Creek area. The .38 bullet found with the victim's remains, and information about the Miller family's missing Colt .38. The report argued that the synthesis of these factors created reasonable grounds to believe Stephen Burke directly caused Ellie Miller's death and concealed the body to hide the crime. On May 8, Carter submitted the report to the Pulaski District Attorney's Office. After reviewing the evidence and forensic assessments, Chief Prosecutor James Holt signed confirmation for the warrant issuance. The warrant, approved by the Pulaski District Court that afternoon, authorized Stephen Burke's arrest for investigation of first-degree murder and body concealment. Simultaneously, the court signed search warrants for the suspect's residence and vehicle to seize related evidence. On May 9, 2023, at 6 a.m., the Kentucky State Police Task Force, coordinated with the Pulaski County Sheriff's Office, executed the arrest plan at Burke's residence a two-story house on Maple Drive, about 3 miles from downtown Somerset. The force of 8 officers approached from 2 directions, cordoning the area before knocking. Burke answered the door, appearing surprised by police presence but not resisting. Inspector Carter directly read the arrest warrant and Miranda rights. He was handcuffed on site and escorted to a specialized vehicle, while other officers began the search per protocol. The house was divided into 3 inspection zones: living room, basement, and garage. The scene technical team photographed and documented each area. In the basement closet, they discovered an old wooden box locked with an iron latch. Upon opening, inside was a Colt .38 special revolver in good condition, bright barrel, serial number engraved on the frame fully matching the gun, reported missing by the Miller family in August 2005. The gun was sealed on-site, coded as evidence. E1. Next to the gun box, police found a cloth bag containing gray rubber gloves and a thick, dark red jacket, still smelling of cleaning solvent. Preliminary fluorescent light check revealed multiple faint stains on the cuffs and front. Everything was photographed, sealed in evidence bags. In the garage, the technical team also seized a .38 ammunition box with 7 rounds remaining, type compatible with the bullet recovered from the Elk Creek burial pit. All evidence was inventoried, signed for, and transported to the State Forensics Lab for examination. The search lasted nearly 4 hours without incidents. Upon completion, the transcript stated, seized 1 Colt .38 special matching 2005 missing weapon serial, 1 synthetic red jacket with unknown substance traces, 1 pair gray rubber gloves, 1 .38 ammunition box, all sealed and transferred to Kentucky State Police. The same day, at KSP headquarters in Frankfort, Carter held a brief internal press conference to update on the arrest. She emphasized the investigation fully followed legal procedures, and the newly seized evidence has potential to strengthen the existing evidence chain. Meanwhile, Stephen Burke was held in temporary detention at Pulaski County Jail, awaiting formal interrogation. When informed of the arrest reason, he responded briefly, "I didn't do anything wrong." The scene team's quick report sent to Frankfort by day's end confirmed all evidence safely transferred, intact condition. Inspector Carter noted in her investigation log, "Arrest and search warrants executed successfully. Seized evidence highly legally valuable, especially the weapon-matching 2005 missing gun serial." Within 24 hours, a supplemental file was prepared for the district prosecutor to update the evidence list. The discovery of the Colt .38 in the suspect's home was seen as the pivotal factor in the investigation process, completing the linkage chain between murder weapon, bullet, and body concealment. Leaving the scene, Carter glanced back at the quiet house in the old neighborhood, noting the final comment in the day's report. After 18 years, the gun returns to its rightful place in the Ellie Miller case file. Stephen Burke was transferred to Kentucky State Police headquarters in Frankfort on the afternoon of May 9, 2023, just hours after arrest. Inspector Emily Carter, along with experienced interrogator Officer Daniel Price, was assigned the first interrogation session. The small interrogation room had white lighting, a metal table, and 2 recording devices activated. The session began at 2:15 p.m., with the suspect's appointed public defender present. Carter reread Miranda rights, asking if Burke understood and agreed to answer. He nodded, maintaining a calm voice. "I'll talk, but I didn't do anything wrong." His first sentence was recorded in the transcript. In the opening, Burke asserted no involvement in Ellie Miller's death. He said on the evening of September 17, 2005, they met at Mill Street Cafe, only to end things amicably. Upon leaving, Ellie said she needed time to think, drove off first, and he went home. He admitted washing his car around 9 p.m., but insisted it was due to muddy rain, not to erase traces. When asked about the Colt .38 found at his home, Burke looked down at the table, silent for nearly a minute. Carter placed copies of the weapon registration certificate and the Miller family's 2005 missing gun report in front of him. "Did you know this gun was reported missing before Ellie disappeared?" she asked. He responded slowly. "I didn't know, but bought it at a flea market a few years earlier." Carter showed no reaction. Sliding a second sheet forward, the ballistics examination showing perfect rifling match with the Elk Creek burial pit bullet. "No such coincidences, Stephen," she said. "The gun you kept in your house fired that bullet." Burke began showing tension, leaning back, hands clasped tightly. He glanced at his lawyer, then lowered his head, voice lower. "I didn't mean to." This statement paused both investigators. Carter gently asked, "You were at Elk Creek that night, right?" Burke nodded, then shook his head, hesitant. After a few seconds he sighed, continuing, "We argued. I didn't intend to kill her. Things just went too far." The confession began unfolding. He recounted that after leaving the cafe, Ellie called requesting one final meeting to make things clear. They met at a lot near the lake, driving there together. Ellie wanted to end the relationship completely, saying she would transfer schools fully, never returning to Somerset. Burke said he had brought her father's Colt .38 beforehand, just to scare, not to use. When Ellie stood firm, they argued intensely. Per his statement, she exited the car, intending to leave. "I grabbed her arm, gun in my pocket, and we struggled," Burke said, voice shaking. "I don't know how the gun went off. I heard the shot and saw her fall." He described the gunshot echoing around the lake, then silence. Ellie lay motionless, blood from her head. Burke stated he knelt, tried shaking her, but got no response. "I panicked. I thought she was dead. I just wanted to get away." After a few minutes, he dragged the body into his own trunk, drove away from the parking area. He said he drove aimlessly for hours before turning onto a dirt road to Elk Creek, an old mining area he knew from childhood. There, he dug a shallow pit with a shovel from his vehicle, placed the body, covered with soil and branches. When Carter asked about the gun, Burke said he kept it, cleaned it, and took it home. "I was afraid if I turned it in to police, they'd know," he said. "I didn't mean to kill Ellie, it was an accident." Carter remained calm. "Do you understand the bullet path in the victim's skull shows she was shot from behind, not during a struggle?" Burke fell silent, eyes down. His lawyer requested a 10-minute break. Upon resuming, Carter presented the YS-star DNA results copy, proving his hair in the victim's car. "You said you went home right after meeting Ellie, but your DNA is in her car," she said. "How do you explain that?" Burke looked up, voice small. "I drove her car a bit. I thought if people saw her car leave, they wouldn't suspect me." He described driving Ellie's car near the lake shore, abandoning it, then walking home through the woods. At home, he washed his vehicle, laundered clothes, and told no one. The entire statement was audio recorded and transcribed in detail. At the end of the over 4-hour first session, Burke signed confirmation of the transcript contents, adding only one line, "I did not intend to cause death." Inspector Carter requested another session the next day to clarify inconsistencies, especially the shooting timing and weapon preparation. In the second session, Burke maintained the gun discharged during the argument. However, when asked why he brought the gun to the meeting, he gave no reasonable explanation, repeating, "I was afraid she'd say something that would make me lose control." The final interrogation report stated clearly, suspect admits presence at scene, admits using weapon to cause death and concealing body. No signs of coercion or force statement. Confession matches physical evidence and forensic results. The audio was backed up to 2 sealed USB drives. The concluding transcript, signed by Carter at 7:40 p.m. May 10, 2023, officially closed the interrogation of suspect Stephen Burke, the last person to see Ellie Miller alive on that fateful 2005 night, and now admitting the full truth after 18 years of silence. Immediately after Stephen Burke confessed to shooting and concealing Ellie Miller's body, Kentucky State Police transferred all newly seized evidence from the search, especially the Colt .38 Special, red jacket and rubber gloves, to the State Forensics Lab for supplemental examination. This analysis round aimed to establish direct links between the weapon, evidence, and victim, strengthening the prosecution file. The ballistics lab received the gun on May 11, 2023. Technicians disassembled, cleaned, and inspected the barrel structure. They then test-fired in a special water tank to recover sample bullets. Under comparison microscopy, the two bullets, one from Elk Creek, one test-fired from the gun, were placed side by side. Magnified images showed barrel rifling grooves, twist direction, and friction micro-marks perfectly matching at every position. The technical report concluded, bullet rifling groove cuts and structural micro-differences absolutely match the sample weapon. Probability fired from the same Colt .38 Special is 100%. This evidence closed the linkage chain between murder weapon and scene, confirming the gun stored at Burke's home was the one that killed Ellie Miller. Simultaneously, the biological forensics team began examining the red jacket seized from Burke's closet. Visually, the jacket had multiple faint stains on cuffs and chest. Under UV light, these stains glowed dimly, signs of organic matter. Technicians used MVAC, a micro-vacuum technique, to collect cells and trace blood from the fabric surface. Samples underwent enhanced sensitivity DNA extraction. 3 days later, DNA comparison results were returned. Samples from the cuff fully matched Ellie Miller's DNA. Random match probability less than 1 in 10 million. The examination report stated clearly, trace blood on suspect's red jacket originates from the victim. No other human DNA found. This discovery was direct evidence proving Burke's close contact with the victim at the time of the crime. Additionally, the technical team analyzed the seized rubber gloves. Inside lining had Burke's epithelial cells, confirming he wore them. On the outer surface, dried mud traces matched Elk Creek excavated soil per mineral spectroscopy. This data chain showed the suspect used gloves during body burial, fully consistent with his prior statement. After completing all examinations, Inspector Emily Carter compiled results into a over 500-page comprehensive investigation file. The introduction recapped the process from the 2022 necklace discovery to suspect arrest and interrogation. The content included 4 main evidence groups: 1 biological, hair and blood DNA; 2 mechanical, bullet and gun; 3 geological, scene soil and evidence traces; 4 confession, Burke's admission matching physical data. Ballistics and biological reports were central, as they were decisive for premeditated murder prosecution. In the compiled assessment sent to the Pulaski District Attorney's Office on May 22, 2023, Carter wrote, "Physical and biological evidence establishes direct link between suspect Stephen Burke and Ellie Miller's death. Gun seized at suspect's residence is the murder weapon. Blood traces on suspect's jacket match victim DNA. All factors prove intentional attack and consequence concealment." She also attached a forensic comparison describing the bullet path in the victim's skull with Colt .38 firing data, noting estimated firing distance 60 to 80 centimeters, low angle from behind forward, inconsistent with Burke's accidental discharge during struggle claim. Prosecutor James Holt, after reviewing the full file, determined sufficient basis to charge with murder in the first degree under Kentucky law, plus tampering with physical evidence. In the prosecution approval transcript, he wrote, "Scientific evidence is absolute, eliminating manslaughter possibility. Suspect's actions show preparation, illegal weapon use, and body disposal effort. Case meets premeditated murder elements." On May 24th, the final forensic conclusion report was signed by 3 independent experts and sealed into file 05-NIS0917. The last line in the summary stated, "Barrel rifling absolute match, blood DNA identifies victim, soil matches scene. Ellie Miller's death direct result of close-range gunshot. Body burial shows intent to conceal crime." With Inspector Carter's signature on the final page, the investigation file was officially complete, ready for transfer to criminal prosecution phase. After 18 years, The disappearance was reclassified with full forensic conclusions. No longer suspicion, but truth proven by science. The trial of Stephen Burke officially took place on August 14, 2023, at the Pulaski District Court in Kentucky. The courtroom was packed, mostly with local residents who had known Ellie Miller and her family. After nearly 18 years, the disappearance that had haunted the town of Somerset was finally brought to public trial with complete forensic physical evidence and the suspect's confession. Before the trial began, Chief Prosecutor James Holt presented the indictment with 2 charges: first-degree murder and body concealment. The prosecution had 5 witnesses and 7 examination reports used as evidence. The defense, handled by Burke's appointed attorney, built an argument based on the accidental discharge hypothesis, claiming Ellie Miller's death was not intentional murder. The trial lasted 10 days, with evidence presented sequentially following the investigation order. On the first day, Prosecutor Holt opened with a case summary. On September 17, 2005, Stephen Burke carried an illegal weapon, met Ellie Miller with intent to control and threaten. When she refused, he shot her in the back of the head, killing her instantly, then buried the body to conceal the crime. He then displayed images of evidence: the Colt .38 Special, red jacket, rubber gloves, along with DNA and ballistics results. Before the 12-member jury, Holt presented a clear linkage chain: hair in the victim's vehicle matching Burke's DNA, Ellie's blood on the suspect's jacket, the bullet fired from the gun found in his home, and soil on the gloves matching the strata where remains were discovered. He said, "Each piece of evidence tells the same story, the story of someone trying to erase their own consequences." On the second day, state ballistics expert Richard Callahan was called as a specialist witness. He explained the barrel mark comparison process with the Elk Creek bullet, affirming no possibility the bullet was fired from any other Colt. He also presented a bullet path reconstruction model, showing firing from behind at under 1 meter. With this angle, the victim could not face or struggle. This was an intentional shot, he concluded. On the third day, forensic pathologist Ann Holloway from the Kentucky State Forensics Lab was summoned. She explained the wound mechanism and skull fracture pattern, proving the victim was shot without defensive reaction. CT images of Ellie's skull were displayed on the large courtroom screen, the atmosphere dead silent. Holloway said, "Bullet path from back to front, 15-degree low angle." At this position, the gun had to be raised and aimed straight at the victim's nape. It could not be accidental. In subsequent days, the prosecution sequentially presented DNA evidence. The YSTAR analysis report was read in court, confirming Burke's hair in the victim's vehicle, the victim's blood on his jacket, and glove soil matching Elk Creek. Forensic witnesses emphasized all results met federal evidence standards, with near zero error. The defense, in cross-examination, focused on psychological and circumstantial aspects. Burke's attorney argued the two had a long romantic relationship. The shooting was an accident in a moment of emotional loss of control. He claimed Burke kept the gun due to unintentionally taking it from the Miller garage while still close to the family, and that he panicked and buried the body, not intentionally concealing. When it was his turn to testify, Burke took the witness stand. He maintained the statement from interrogation, "I didn't mean to," we argued. "I just wanted her to listen. The gun went off, and I panicked." However, when Prosecutor Holt showed Elk Creek scene photos and asked, "How many hours did it take to dig that pit? How much time to bury her then drive home?" Burke fell silent, head down. The answer was never given. The final arguments of both sides occurred on the 9th day. Holt said in closing, "An accident cannot produce 6 physical evidences, a precise shot to the back of the head, and 18 years of body concealment. That's not reflex. That's choice." The defense tried convincing the jury to reduce to manslaughter, emphasizing Burke cooperated, confessed, and expressed remorse. But the prosecution's presentation carried weight. All experts ruled out discharge. Bullet direction, wounds, and post-act behavior proved intent. On August 23, 2023. After 4 hours of deliberation, the jury returned. The foreperson read the verdict. Defendant Stephen Burke is found guilty of first-degree murder and body concealment. The courtroom was silent for seconds, only the judge's pen scratching. Sentencing followed immediately. Life imprisonment without parole. In remarks, the judge said, "The court finds the defendant's actions intentional, concealed for a long time, causing deep community harm. This sentence reflects the crime's nature and lasting consequences." As he was let out, Burke said nothing, eyes blank. Prosecutor Holt handed the file to Carter, whispering, 18 years, we finally closed it. Outside court, the Miller family made no press statements. The life sentence ended the nearly two-decade case, concluding the investigation Kentucky State Police had persistently pursued since 2005. October 2023, less than 2 months after Stephen Burke's sentence took effect, Kentucky State Police completed the final technical report on Case 05-0917, the Ellie Miller case, now considered one of the most successfully resolved cold cases in agency history. The over 200-page report, titled Forensic Integrity and Interagency Collaboration in Long-Term Missing Person Homicide Investigations, compiled the entire 18-year investigation process, from the 2005 missing person report to the 2023 life sentence. The introduction noted this as a model case for evidence preservation value, DNA data updates, and new forensic technology application in uncovering truth in long-term files. The report listed sequentially, initial 2005-2006 investigation phase, 2006-2015 cold case storage period, 2022 chance discovery, 2023 reinvestigation restart and modern technique evidence analysis. In the overview analysis, KSP experts emphasized the decisive factor in solving the case was evidence and storage data integrity. All hair, fabric, soil, and tire samples were preserved under standard conditions at the Frankfurt Central Storage for nearly 2 decades, retaining legal value for re-examination with new technology. The report stated clearly, if any sample was destroyed or lost in storage, the evidence chain would break, and the case could not conclude. This was clear proof of long-term criminal investigation, evidence preservation importance. The second report section focused on forensic technology development analysis. In 2005, DNA was mainly analyzed via standard STR, requiring large intact samples. By 2022-2023, YSTR and MVAC application allowed trace cell DNA extraction, recovering genetic information from broken or degraded samples. Thus, hair samples thought useless in old files became suspect identifying evidence. Additionally, NI-bin ballistic system and ground-penetrating radar helped reconstruct scenes and precisely locate burial to centimeters. The report concluded, technology development does not create results alone, but combined with intact stored data, it enables time reversal and truth reestablishment. The third section evaluated interagency coordination model with cold case division central, but other unit support indispensable. Kentucky State Police, State Forensics Lab, Pulaski Prosecutor's Office, University of Kentucky, and Federal Bureau of Investigation were all credited for sharing databases, equipment, and expertise. The report quoted Inspector Emily Carter. No single unit can solve a cold case alone. Success comes from every small link, storage staff, DNA technicians, ballistics experts, prosecutors, maintaining responsibility over 18 years. KSP also emphasized periodic file monitoring lessons. Triennial reviews in 2006-2015 ensured no evidence loss, keeping victim DNA updated in National CODIS. Thus, when 2022 necklace DNA was discovered, automatic matching immediately linked to the Miller file, reactivating the case. The report wrote, "This is a typical example of maintaining data connection efficiency between physical evidence and national DNA identification system." Another important report part was legal evaluation and evidence standards. Experts noted strict adherence to collection, sealing, and storage protocols enabled court acceptance after nearly 2 decades. No file sample violated chain of custody. The report affirmed, evidence reliability lies not only in technology, but in transparency and discipline throughout preservation. Legally, the Burke-Miller case became internal Kentucky precedent for prosecution based on re-examined physical evidence. The state prosecutor's office issued new guidelines for other districts, requiring periodic re-examination of potential DNA cold cases with updated technology. Guidelines also proposed expanding cold case division and evidence storage budgets. In conclusion, the technical report wrote, after 18 years, solving Case 05-NIS-0917 not only brought justice to one victim, but proved scientific process integrity can surpass time. The case exemplifies the principle, no file is truly closed if evidence exists and is properly preserved. The report was sent to the Kentucky Department of Justice and cited in statewide forensic investigation training, late 2023. On the final page, under the Kentucky State Police Director's signature, a brief succinct note, evidence endures, and with it justice. December 20, 23. On a cold, damp winter morning in Frankfort, the Kentucky State Police Storage Center conducted the administrative ceremony to close File 05-NIS-0917, Ellie Miller's disappearance and subsequent murder case. After nearly 18 years since the initial September 2005 report, this thousands-page file was finally marked complete. In the main storage room, Inspector Emily Carter with Cold Case Division and State Forensics Lab representatives witnessed full document resealing. The original metal file box, opened a year earlier for investigation, was now closed with a new seal reading, "Case resolved, final disposition, conviction secured." The administrative transcript recorded exact time 10:27 a.m., December 20, 2023. All original evidence, Colt. 38, gun, jacket, gloves, hair, and soil samples, was transferred to long-term storage per life sentence, case regulations. Electronic documents were backed up to internal system, double encrypted for future training and reference. For Kentucky State Police, this was not just completing a case, but summarizing a multi-generation investigation process involving investigators, experts, and technicians. The same-day internal report noted the Ellie Miller case as typical for cold case reinvestigation success through evidence preservation and interagency coordination. In evaluation, KSP Command emphasized every phase, from report intake, evidence preservation, file storage, to modern technology restart, followed standards. The case proves time does not diminish justice value if data is properly maintained. At the year-end summary meeting, File 05-0917 was added to closed cases of forensic significance catalog alongside other notable state cases. Inspector Carter presented the case-breaking summary, highlighting 3 key factors: chance new evidence discovery, dramatic DNA technology advancement, and data preservation discipline. She ended her report briefly. Ellie Miller was found, not by luck, but by system persistence. This report was adopted as official training material for Kentucky Cold Case Investigator courses from 2024. Beyond operational value, the Ellie Miller case left a deep mark on local forensics. First-time same-file use of YSTAR and MVAC in the state was a turning point, laying foundation for widespread advanced forensic technology in old cases. The state prosecutor's office also cited the case as practical precedent for re-examined evidence effectiveness in long-delayed murder prosecution. In the KSP director's internal note, the final line, Case 05-0917, demonstrates not only investigative perseverance, but institutional memory, a promise kept to victims long after time has passed. As the final file box was returned to the iron cabinet and storage door closed, no one spoke further. Only Carter's pen scratched softly on the sealing transcript. In the adjacent column, file status was filled, closed, December 20, 2023. After 18 years since Ellie Miller vanished in Somerset, the case officially closed, complete, transparent, and leaving a lesson on perseverance, value, science, and belief that justice, though late, can still be found. The Ellie Miller case, solved after 18 years, thanks to modern forensic technology and the determination of people who never gave up, offers today's American society a profound lesson on memory, value, justice, and community responsibility. In a constantly moving country where thousands of missing person cases remain unsolved, this story reminds us time should not be a reason to forget. If Kentucky State Police had not persistently preserved evidence, if there was no forensic agency cooperation, and if people like Inspector Emily Carter did not believe as long as evidence exists, justice still has a chance, then the truth about Ellie's death would remain buried forever. The story also reflects technology's role when a 2005 seemingly useless hair sample became decisive evidence via YSTR nearly 2 decades later. This reminds that in modern life, scientific progress not only advances humanity, but can restore faith in justice and social ethics. For every citizen, the case is a warning about violence in intimate relationships, seemingly private, but carrying hidden risks, like Stephen Burke bringing a gun just to scare and turning an argument into crime. In the U.S., where the domestic violence awareness movement is increasingly focused, Ellie Miller's story is clear proof. Every warning sign must be heard, every controlling behavior identified early. Justice does not only come from courts, it starts with individual responsibility to protect truth, preserve evidence, and never let victims be forgotten. Thank you for following to the end of the journey to restore justice for Ellie Miller. A case showing truth, though buried, can one day be revealed. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to continue exploring other cold cases with us, where justice is still being pursued through every remaining trace.